NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, has a poster of a bee hanging on its walls. Why do you think NASA would hang up a motivational poster of a bee? Well, that poster says, aerodynamically, a bee's body is not made to fly. The good thing is the bee doesn't know it yet. According to the laws of aviation, a bee is not meant to fly. Their wings are too small and their bodies too big to take flight. And yet, regardless of this fact, the bee flies. Notice how the quote says, the good thing is that the bee doesn't know it. We'll get to that a little bit later. But in case you're dying to know how a bee flies despite it breaking the laws of aviation, it's that the bee's wings make a little hurricane underneath it that lift it up. And that's just to point out that there's more than one right way to do things. And if things are working against you, find another way. That's just some words of motivation for you, but it's not what this video is about. Today, we're talking about achieving the impossible. I am Layla from ShutUpAndAchieve.com, your partner in progress, your guide to success. Today, I'm sharing with you the stories of 3 people who achieved impossible things, and what they all had in common with the bee. You'll also learn how you can be just like them. How you can be like the bee. But before that, become a subscriber by hitting that subscribe button. Medical journals has said that it's physiologically impossible for the human body to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. But that was before Sir Roger Bannister made history. You see, for 9 years, the quickest anyone had run a mile was 4 minutes, 1 second, and 30 milliseconds. That's for 9 years, so almost a decade. The experts didn't think that anyone could break this record. In fact, they said that if the record was to be broken, it would have to be under perfect circumstances. You'd have to have perfect weather, 68 degrees and no wind. It'd have to be on a dry and hard track, with an animated crowd to keep the runner motivated. But then, something interesting happened.
Up to the finishing line. Time 3 minutes, 59.4 seconds, shattering the 4-minute mile, the Everest of athletic achievement. A great reception for the young medical student who had cut 2 whole seconds off Gunda Haag's world record set up 9 years ago.
The experts were proved wrong. This is the picture of Sir Roger Bannister, and he is the first man to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. Sir Roger Bannister was the last person they'd expect to beat this record. He was a full-time medical student and did not have the time for coaches. He took his own approach and was criticized for it. The British reporters called his approach the lone wolf approach and advised that he follow the traditional training methods. And as amazing as that is, that's not even the cool part. You could say that Roger Bannister defied science because the medical experts said that the human heart could not pump enough, the lungs were not powerful enough to beat this record and to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. But he did it. Just like the bee, he did not care what the people said could and could not be done. But here's where it gets interesting. 46 days after Sir Roger Bannister beat the record. And remember, this is after 9 years of people saying that it could not be done. John Landy ran a mile in 3 minutes and 58 seconds. He broke Roger Bannister's record. How is it that this impossible feat was beat not once, but twice? In fact, a year after this, 3 runners ran a mile in less than 4 minutes, all in the same race. The human body did not change. The only thing that changed was belief. When people realized that it was no longer impossible, they believed they could, and they did. Rosie Perez said, "You have to believe in yourself. You need to have the audacity to be great." So tell me, What could you do if you had no limits? What would you try to do if you didn't know what your limits were? How much would be possible for you if only you believed it was? If you have beliefs that are holding you back, don't worry. I made a list of the 15 most common limiting beliefs, and I linked to it in the description box below. Roger Bannister isn't alone in defying what people say can and cannot be done. This is George Dantzig. And like any good student, he was late to class one day. By the time he arrived in class, there were 2 math problems written on the board. He thought it was homework, so he went home to solve them. And like the good student he was late to hand in the paper. He told his professor, Jersey Neyman, the problem seemed a little harder than usual. Here's the plot twist. Those problems were not homework. This mathematician solved 2 of the most famous unsolvable problems in statistics. All because he came to class late and didn't hear that they were supposed to be unsolvable. 6 weeks later, Dantzig's professor came knocking on his door, telling him that he would be submitting a paper to a journal about the problems Dantzig solved. Today, his solution, the simplex method, is used everywhere, from traffic lights to airline scheduling. Here are the facts. When someone tells you something is impossible, you don't even try. And even if you do, you give up after the first few unsuccessful attempts. When was the last time you tried to do something impossible? When was the last time you tested your boundaries? When was the last time you tried to do something hard? Or even mildly challenging? Okay, what about something outside of your comfort zone? When we realize something is impossible or hard, we don't even try. George said it himself. He said if I had known the problems were not homework, but were in fact 2 famous unsolved problems in statistics, I probably would have not thought positively, would have become discouraged, and would have never solved them. Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Muhammed Ali's famous words are, "I am the greatest." Looking at his legacy, we can totally see that. Certainly, he was indeed the greatest. But did you know he said that even before he knew he was? He said, "I am the greatest. I said that even before I knew I was. I figured that if I said it enough, I would convince the world that I really was the greatest." This is he. He was one of the greatest boxers in history, the first fighter to win the World Heavyweight Championship on 3 separate occasions. He is regarded as one of the most significant sports figures of the 20th century, nicknamed the greatest. Of course, he trained a lot. He did the work that needed to be done to earn that nickname. But he knew he was the greatest before anyone else did. And that confidence, that belief, played a major factor in who he became. Muhammad Ali himself said, "Impossible is just a word thrown around by small men who find it easier to live in the world they've been given than to explore the power they have to change it." Impossible is not a fact, it's an opinion. Impossible is potential. Impossible is temporary. Impossible is nothing. Those are some powerful words. I know what you might be thinking. What does this have to do with bees? The NASA poster is a reminder that you are not limited by what people say is or is not possible. You are only limited by what you say you can do and cannot do. So be like the bee and fly to the highest peaks even if others say it's not possible. Like Roger Bannister, redefine the impossible. Like George Dantzig, challenge your limits. And like Muhammad Ali, define yourself boldly. I hope you found this video motivating. If you did, I would really appreciate it if you hit that like button. If you want to see more videos from Shut Up and Achieve, then be sure to subscribe. And if you're looking for useful tools to boost your productivity and improve your life, check out what we offer at shutupandachieve.com. We have the Life Audit Workbook, which will help you assess your life and see where you need to improve. Don't forget to follow the link below to get your list of 15 limiting beliefs that hold you back. If you have beliefs that are holding you back, don't worry. I made a list of the 15 most common limiting beliefs, and I linked to it in the description box below.